Welcome to my Zilean Duo tier list. Today I'm going to be talking about the champions that I like or hate to see when I'm playing Zilean in Summoner's Rift. Quick explanation of the tiers. Absolute Synergy is champions who utilize the entirety of Zilean's kit or who Zilean solves pretty much all of their core issues. Solid Picks is for champions who like usually one or two of his things. Usually it's the move speed, sometimes it's the revive, very occasionally it'd be, the area of effect stun. Duos only is champions who they have synergy with Zilean, but they also have the ability to nombo them, or you have to fundamentally change the way you play in order to get those synergies to work. Middle of the pack is where most champions are going to be. Some champions, they don't really work with Zilean, but they don't hate having move speed. They don't hate having a revive. They don't hate having area of effect stun. A lot of champions are going to be going here. And then please don't pick these are champions who pretty much practically non-bow Zilean all the time, or barely, if at all, utilize his strengths. Not a lot of champions are going to be here. Ari's going to be here. But for the most part, not a lot of champions are going to be here. So to start off, we're going to do Aatrox. Aatrox, I want to say, goes into Solid Picks. The things Zilean looks for in a partner, in a duo, is he wants champions who don't have a lot of built-in mobility, that have a consistent form of crowd control, and a decent way to do damage. Aatrox has some mobility, and his forms of crowd control aren't the most consistent, but they're pretty consistent, and his damage is pretty good. He is generally a good pick. I'm never mad at seeing an Aatrox, but it's alright. No, he doesn't sing to me. Ari, her crowd control is pretty inconsistent, and it's balanced around being highly mobile already, so she doesn't really use she doesn't really use Zilean's E very often. You can't do that trick where you throw a bomb onto an allied champion and then use that easy way to get your double bomb because she moves like crazy. And also, she doesn't really use your revive very well, because if Ari has died, she's probably already ran through her entire kit. Akali, I'm going to say middle of the pack. She's just as mobile as Ari, but her cooldowns for her mobility is way shorter because it's built into her basic abilities instead of her ultimate. So she can get some use out of your ultimate if you grab an Akali that got out, and she can usually scroll out. Other than that, she doesn't no one hates moving double speed, but I don't think you're really happy to see an Akali. Akshan is an ADC and therefore goes middle of the pack. Zilean is, unless you're dealing with the top elos, amazing players who are able to fully utilize fucking 900 move speed ADCs. ADCs are just not built to work with Zilean. Zilean and ADCs exist because Zilean is not good enough on his own to function in other roles, and it kind of just needs to get babysit by his ADC, which is typically not what you want from your support, but I'm not the one who threw him into the support role. Alistar. Weirdly, Zilean actually works pretty well with a lot of ADCs, a lot of supports. I'd say Alistar, if you're in the situation where someone's picking Alistar, maybe it's like a weird Alistar mid pick, Alistar top, you like him. He's got pretty good crowd control. He's pretty tanky. He just doesn't do a lot of damage. But overall, you don't hate tanks as Zilean. Mumu, the problem is Mumu's crowd control that isn't his ultimate is based off a skill shot, and you can give him move speed, and that can help him a little bit. I'd say Solid Picks, just because if your Mumu's bad at landing his bandages, there's nothing wrong with just having him sprint in and ulting manually. Nivea is going to go middle of the pack. Actually, does she? She doesn't have mobility. She has one really decent stun, and her wall can actually be pretty good if you can place it. And yeah, actually, I think solid pick. I don't think I'd be mad to see an Olivia, and there's definitely a lot of things that you like. Annie. Annie's definitely up there. So Annie's got like multiple stuns just because of the way her passive works. And a lot of her problems is simply she has to walk at you. I think I'm gonna put her up in absolute synergy. There's a few more champions that are gonna kind of be like this. Darius is gonna be one of them when we get to him, where the main gameplay once you get to the mid to late game is the champion walks at you and you simply just walk away from them. Because if they get to walk up at you and use their abilities on you, you just die. And Annie definitely fits the bill on that. You can use her to make space pretty well. Thelios is an ADC. Ashe is an ADC. Oh my god. Asol. Please don't pick an Asol. He just fully does not use Zilean's kit. Azir. My gut instinct is to put Azir into please don't pick these, because he's mostly reliant on dashing to his soldiers, and he doesn't really he does a lot of standing hitting. He's practically an ADC. Bard. I don't think a Bard, because when do you ever see a Bard and a Zilean on the same team? Fine, I guess. Actually, I'm gonna make another row, and this is going to be supports who only support. I'm gonna put you in a nice gray. Yeah. You just when are you gonna see bards? Like maybe you're a Zilean mid, but I don't really tend to see a lot of you don't see a lot of Zilean mid anymore. He doesn't really have the AP ratios to really like work that. Belveth. Middle of the pack. She has a lot of dashes, but she's also a good fighter. So another quality you really like as Zilean is champions that have sustain in short cooldowns, which Belveth typically is pretty good at sustaining yourself, and a lot of her abilities have pretty short cooldowns or multiple charges. So if she gets that revive, she can stand up and still be useful. A lot of mages, so like Asol, like he blows his kit, and if you revive him, he's just kind of useless, and that's why he's sitting here on top of not utilizing any of your abilities. Blitzcrank. Solid pick. He is a support who, if you get a Blitzcrank jungle or Blitzcrank tank, or you're playing like an off lane on Zilean for top or mid, you can synergize pretty well with Blitzcrank because he's a picker. His crowd control is pretty good. He is kind of balanced around his W, and you giving him that extra move speed, but not having to use that W is pretty nice. Brand. Middle back. I think nothing of Brand. Braum. Similar thing with Blitzcrank. Good crowd control effect. Caitlyn. I kind of like Caitlyn. And the reason I'm not putting Caitlyn with the rest of the ADCs down here, right, is because Zilean is a ranged creep for the first 2 to 3 levels of the lane. And so he really likes ADCs that have extremely safe lanes that practically cannot lose lane. And Caitlyn Caitlyn's really good about that. It's so hard. It's so hard for Caitlyn to have a bad lane, like to just get dumpstered. She can, she can lose lane. Any champion can, but oh my god, it's hard to lose lane as a Caitlyn, and she can practically 1v2. Camille, I want to say middle of the pack. She's got a lot of mobility built into her kit, but she also totally fine getting E'd on occasion. Cassiopeia, oh my god, I don't even think of her. So my immediate response to not thinking of champion is middle of the pack. Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath would be better if his crowd control wasn't a skill shot. Like, if his silence, like his cone silence, was his knockup, and his, like, if his Q and his E were split, were like, switched on which kind of crowd control they did. But other than that, yeah, he's alright. You can make him go fast, he can eat people better. He kind of struggles repositioning. He's kind of clunky. Corky's an ADC. Darius. Easy absolute synergy. He is probably the best champion for working with Zilean. Because, the typical way, Darius is perceived as he's a lane bully, that once you get out of the lane phase and you go into the group up team fight phase, he kind of drops off. And this is because he's got incredible pulls, great slows, big heals, big area of effect damage, and execute ultimate that refreshes on kill. And in order to balance this, he's the world's most kiteable man. And let me tell you, a 900 move speed Darius is a late game champion. Darius is also like picking up Dead Man's Plate, which gives you move speed, which means it's affected by move speed buffs rather than it being a move speed buff itself. And so when you double his move speed, it gets, oh my god, so good. Yeah, Darius, probably one of the best champions to work with a Zilean. Diana, solid pick. The reason I put Diana as a solid pick is her engage is pretty reliable, and because she's typically the first person to engage, and she's like this mage fighter, she gets blown up like crazy. And she has these fairly low cooldowns. She's designed to keep going. So you move, speed her up into the fight, let her jump in, let her get 3 or 4 people with her ulti, have them blow her up, and you just save her life, and you're up a champion. This is nice. Mundo. Middle of the pack. Mundo doesn't have a crowd control. A lot of, like, Zilean likes Juggernauts because they're tanky and they like damage, and they're typically only bound by them being slow. But Mundo has the problem where his crowd control is a skill shot slow, designed to be hit at a range. And so you don't really synergize with him at all. Draven. And here's the thing. I think Draven goes up here, which is weird, because Zilean is a ranged creep for the first 3 levels of the game. Pretty much until he gets all of his abilities. But weirdly, Draven really likes the area of effects done, because he likes taking those early 2v2 engages. He really likes you being able to slow one of the enemies, because he's got his own built-in move speed. I don't know why. I can't really explain it to you. But every time I've played with a Draven, the lane's gone great. It might be just because Dravens, by their nature, tend to win lane on their own. And so that lets you coast as a weak little, Zilean into your mid-game power spike. But there's something there. There's some secret sauce in Draven. Draven definitely is in that sauce. Echo. Duos only. a lot of your champions that are going to be duos only are going to be champions that can save themselves from extreme danger. Like he's balanced around having his dash blank and his ultimate to move long distances, right? But he's also like designed to go in, throw down his W, E into a team fight, get that shield, and then ult out when he gets blown up. And if you ult that Echo and he ults himself, you just look like a fool because you've wasted your ultimate on an Echo who now has to figure out how to die at full health. So I might even put him in. Please don't pick this. Like, even if you're playing with a duo, I don't think you have any synergies. Yeah, he's gained a mode. Please don't pick Echo with a Zilean. Elise. Her crowd control. Her crowd control is simultaneously incredible and so bad because it's got such a short range and such a slow move speed, but it stuns forever. Isn't it like a 2 or 2.5 second stun? I think she's a solid pick. Like, her spider form likes the move speed. She's got some. She does have kind of a way to non-bow your ultimate if you ult her and she like jumps out into her like spider area. So I think that's some basic communication, but if you're working in solo queue, basic communication is sure as an ask. Evelyn. Actually Evelyn's pretty good. She throws her charm on and then has to play that weird dancing game where she's like, oh, I'm gonna get close to you, I'm gonna charm you, and if your opponent's just to walk away, because the charm lets them know where Evelyn is, and so you can just put a move speed buff on Evelyn and have her sprint in and get that charm off, pretty much guaranteed. She does have a little bit of duos only, just because her ultimate gets her out of a lot of like danger, but that doesn't really tend to happen. Just don't ult Evelyn. Ezreal. I think Ezreal is solid picks for the similar reason with Caitlyn and Draven, where he tends to just be fine lane or win lane on his own. Fiddlesticks. I'm going to put that as middle of the pack. Fiddlesticks doesn't really utilize much of your kit at all, but you're a big teamfight champion with area of effect stun. He's a big teamfight champion with area effect fear. He does like the movement speed bonus when he's in his ulti. He does have fairly short cooldown abilities, so if he gets blown up and you ult him, he can stand up and keep fighting. It's just not really impactful enough to matter. So I think, middle of the pack. Fiora. Fiora's pretty middle of the pack. All of her abilities are pretty short cooldown, so she likes the ultimate. And she likes the move speed. But she doesn't have any hard crowd control unless she reposts crowd control coming at her. And that means you have to rely on your enemy stunning your ally and her getting the stun off, and that's just not reliable. Fizz. It's alright. Fizz is a champion that walks at you until he can dash onto you, and then he kills you. And so if you just simply walk away from the Fizz, a lot of the time you just won't die, or he'll have to waste his mobility to get to you. So, yeah, he's alright. He also doesn't tend to non-bow Zilean's ultimate, just because like all of his ways to save himself are very short, and it gives a lot of opportunity to realize, oh, I should die. I'm going to come back, with 1600 health. Galio. Middle of the pack. His crowd control's weird. His crowd control's a slow, and slows and movement speed buffs interact weird with each other in League. And so it doesn't work like the way that you'd want it to. But he's alright. Gangplank. Uh, hmm. Gangplank doesn't tend to die a lot. Like, he likes to stand on the edge, throw down his barrels, blow some people up, and then occasionally walk in to auto someone with his passive. And he also really likes long games. Zilean's pretty decent at doing long games because he's got pretty good clear. Uh, and his ability to save allies and reposition people to get to where they need to on the map makes him pretty good at never giving objectives up for free once you get past the first, like, 6 levels of the game. So, I want to put him under solid pick, but there's nothing that he really... Nah, middle of the back. I don't think I tend to think of Zilean. Hello, Garen. Garen. Garen's a Juggernaut. Typically, Juggernauts are really happy with Zilean, but Garen's the Juggernaut who gets to move fast, especially if he does the phase rush build, right? And he has no hard crowd control. He has a silence, but silence isn't hard crowd control. It just means your opponent continues to walk away from you, or if they're an ADC, turns around and kills you. And so he doesn't really use your move speed bonus. He doesn't tend to die, so you typically never get to ult a Garen, and he doesn't do a ton of damage. Not at least not enough to justify ulting him over your ADC. Gnar, I'm gonna put middle of the pack. He can ult for his decent crowd control, but a lot of that's built into his range mechanic. But he's also like tailor designed to kite around, act like an ADC while he's out of that, and just be fucking annoying. And doubling his move speed only doubles how annoying he's gonna be. Gragas. I don't think you like Gragas. Long cooldowns. He's a combo-oriented champion. He has crowd control, but his crowd control is typically part of his combo. Yeah. I'm never really excited to see. I'm kind of tempted to put another... Yeah, I'm going to put another row below, which is... Meh. Make that purple. Oh, whoops. Middle of pack. Meh is just champions who just... You don't like to see him, but you don't hate it. So, let's do... Who else was saying it? A lot of these tanky, no or low crowd control champions. Garen kind of sits there. Throw that into purple. Graves. He's an ADC. Actually, let's look at these ADCs. Action, Belios. Ash used to like middle of the pack. Yeah, I think that's everyone. Corki. Yeah, middle of the pack. Graves, I think goes pretty meh. No, he's pretty tanky. He's one of those, like... And he's got a very unique form of crowd control with his smoke screen, which makes him pretty invaluable team fights. And Zilean really likes team fights and skirmishes. So I think, yeah, middle of the pack, you're never mad at the Graves, but you also don't tend to interact with them. Gwen. Gwen's pretty meh. She doesn't really tend to use a lot of your kit. And she also has this weird problem that we're gonna see with like Warwick and Briar, where it's really hard as a Zilean to tell how much danger Gwen is in. Just because of the way her invulnerability works, where she's got those circles on the ground, and she can only be affected by things that are inside the circle. And so it's really hard to gauge when a Gwen is about to walk up to a team fight and get her shit rocked, and when she's going to walk up to a team fight and take no damage for the first 5 seconds of the fight. And so overall, I find it kind of confusing to work with a Gwen. She might go into duos only for that reason, but she also doesn't, like, move speed's alright, but she tends to do a lot of standing in her circle, so she doesn't do a lot of repositioning. She might, but I don't hate seeing Gwens. Because she anchors herself in choke points, and so you pretty much always know where you're gonna bomb. Hecarim. So you'd think Hecarim probably goes in absolute synergy, but I'm gonna put him in duos only. The reason is this tier list is mostly thinking about like duo Q, solo Q, that kind of thing, right? And Hecarim gets extra damage based off his move speed. But the way Hecarim is encouraged to play is flanking, because he's able to push champions and he's got his fear on his ultimate. He likes it when you'll have your four teammates looking down at the enemy team, and he gets to circle around behind them and push 2 of the enemy teammates into your team. And so that makes it really hard for you to get your movement speed bonus on him, because it means either you have to follow him and then you're a Zilean trying to follow Hecarim, or you have to like pre-plan where you speed him up as he goes to do his engage and you're kind of on the flank. It's a bit weird. Something that's a lot easier if you're on a call and you've kind of practiced this, because I can definitely see a lot of the strength coming out of that. But just because you want to be sticking around your team for the big team fights and skirmishes, and he wants to be roaming to catch people out, you don't tend to get a lot of overlap in how you play, but you totally could. Heimerdinger. I want to say Heimerdinger goes middle of the pack. He's pretty decent at taking an area and saying, hey, this is my area, until you get rid of my turrets or get rid of me. And that gives you plenty of spot, that gives you a designated bomb zone, which Zilean likes pretty well. But other than that, Heimerdinger doesn't really utilize his kits. His cooldowns are fairly long, so he doesn't really jive with Zilean's ultimate. But he can be saved if people dive him into his turrets, and he throws his ultimate down first. But there's usually higher priority targets if you're getting dived in a team fight, right? Alawi. Meh, or don't pick these. Somewhere in here lies Alawi. I'm going to put it probably in a meh. And it's going to sound really weird because I just praised Heimerdinger for this. But Alawi is a champion who chooses one spot of the map and says, hey, please fight me here. And so she doesn't like your move speed, and she heals like crazy, which makes it really hard to judge when you need to ult an Alawi, or when you need to just let her vibe and just heal off of her Q, right? And so it's really easy to accidentally let an Alawi die, or accidentally ult her and actually it was totally fine. And unlike a Heimerdinger, whose turrets pose a threat to turrets, Alawi can just stand in front of a tower, and if walking up to that tower would get her blown up by 4 other champions, she just kind of has to sit there and look at it and hope it falls over on its own, or an ADC comes over and does that for her. So you pretty much never really interact with an Alawi, because Alawi is kind of designed to split push and 1v5 on the other side of the team, on the other side of the map. And Zilean really likes tanks and bruisers and juggernauts that join the team and don't split push. Or fighters that roam and are looking for small skirmishes. Aurelia. Please don't pick this champion. Similar thing with Ari. She's kind of similar in Akali. It feels weird that she either skips right over Meh into middle of the pack or stays down and please don't pick these. But she dashes like crazy. She's hard to figure out if she's going to die or not. Actually, yeah, Lowy, please don't pick Lowy. The more I think about it. Typically has a lot of self-sustain, has a lot of mobility, which means she doesn't utilize your kit. And she has a tendency to dive really far into enemy teams and get blown up outside of your ult range. So she has pretty low cooldowns. Because she's a fighter assassin type. But you don't really get a lot of opportunity to ult Aurelia. Ivern. I'm tempted to put Ivern in support to only support, but that's not true. I like Ivern. And this is because Zilean's actually a bad enchanter. Zilean is cosplaying an enchanter, but his heal is on his ultimate. And unless you take Aerie, you don't have any other way to shield or heal your allies. And so having your jungler fulfill the enchanting role can actually be pretty nice. Also, one of his biggest weaknesses is Daisy is pretty strong, and Ivern is made of tissue paper. And so usually it's pretty worth it for your enemies to take one or two people and just dive Ivern and blow him up, because then they are also not fighting Daisy. And so if you can just stick around Ivern, who's going to be sticking around your ADC, and you're going to be in this nice little bundle of crowd control and death, and just whenever they dive your Ivern, you just res him, that can be so nice. He doesn't really utilize your kit outside of your ultimate. Daisy obviously can wear bombs, which is pretty nice. And I think Daisy can also be E'd, but I don't remember. I want to say you can, because I'm pretty sure you can E enemy daisies to slow them down. Doesn't do anything though. Yeah, Ivern's pretty good, but mostly because of the way that he covers for the weaknesses of Zilean in the comp. Janna, I don't think I've ever played with a Janna as a Zilean. Actually, support to only support. Maybe even please don't pick these if you have the option. Because while she is an enchanter like Ivern, she tends to save everyone when she saves someone and can waste your ultimate. J4. J4 is a solid pick. He likes to get up there. He likes to jump on people with his ultimate. He has some mobility, but also sometimes he likes to use that to get out. Yeah. I'd say he's kind of weird where you need to play around his ultimate timer. If he doesn't have his ultimate, he's kind of a meh pick. But that's more just the way the J4 is designed. Jax. Jax is a solid pick. Which is weird because Jax also has like a pretty decent mobility option. But most players kind of have a circle around Jax that they know, like, if I come into this area, Jax is gonna, jump onto me or jump onto a minion next to me and stun me. And so being able to just give him the movement speed bonus he needs to jump up and engage and fight. Also, because of his, his dodging ability, he doesn't tend to get blown up immediately, but in a way that he's not going to get blown up. When Jax is going to be vulnerable and when he's not. And that's something Zileans value highly, especially in solo queue to queue. Because it makes it to where he can no longer dodge attacks. He's going to start taking a lot of damage. I can just throw my ult on him pretty easy. Or, he's dodging attacks. He's jumping in there. They're going to focus him, but they're going to have to, wait. I'm totally fine. I like Jax. He's fairly solid. I'm never mad to see a Jax on my team. Man, Jace, what do you do? He like does kick flips and switches in different forms, and he's AC, who's also a coward, who's also melee. Eh. He's also got the move speed bonus thing, which is a movement buff instead of a stat gain. I'm pretty meh on Jace. I don't think much of anything. Jhin, solid pick. Same thing for Caitlyn and Ezreal. Jin's kind of an ADC that just survives lane on his own. His early game damage is fairly insane. So, like, you can almost leave a Jhin on his own in lane and he'll be fine. Jinx. Jinx is weird. Because for reasons that'll be talked about later when we get to Viego, and maybe Katarina, Jinx would probably sit here. Because she's got her kill, like her passive where she gets bonuses on kills, and typically champions who get really strong when they kill a champion love Zilean. But she's this weird situation where because she's an ADC, if Jinx has died, getting rezzed probably means she's going to die again, because it means champions are already on her. And she has no real way to survive that. So I'm going to put her probably middle of the pack. She's also pretty decent at surviving her own lane. Maybe that might even deserve solid picks. She's got that long range, but she has like no mobility. Yeah, if I'm gonna put Caitlyn up there, I'm probably gonna put Jinx, just because she can, if she needs to, just throw down chompers under tower and Q farm. Kai'Sa, pretty middle of the pack. Actually, I'm gonna put Kai'Sa in duos only, and the reason is Kai'Sa's see a Zilean, and either they are constant reckless divers. They hit 6 and they're immediately in there, and they're expecting that you're gonna run into whatever fucking backline that they dived into and ult them and get yourself killed. Or they've learned as a Kai'Sa that doing that gets them killed and will never engage, and there is no middle ground. The fucking solo queue experience with Kai'Sas is they're either reckless idiots who dive in all the time or cowards. And if you have a duo where you can talk about like, oh, I'm going to go in, can you be over, reposition yourself in a way that like you can support me, totally fine. Know your limits. That's a great bot lane duo. She's also a champion who, like, I don't think Kai'Sas can really 1v2 a lane, but she can, Kai'Sas can kind of do it all. They're pretty good. She's probably the only ADC that I would recommend duoing with. Otherwise, most of your duos I would recommend be outside of the bot lane. Callista, please do not pick this champion. She does not use your movement speed, and she throws you into combat. Do not like it. Please don't do that. That's a support. Karthus. Karthus? I mean, you can always just choose to not ult Karthus. The Nombo's on your side. So I think I'm going to put him in meh. Because he also does like the movement speed sometimes, where you can get him out of danger, or he can throw his Eon and just run around Leandrine, or, whatever weird ability he has going on. But other than that, he just doesn't really tend to use your kit very much. He actively doesn't like being ulted, which does mean you can save it for others, but if you get enough champions who actively, like, don't care about being ulted or don't like it, like Sion, you can either get this weird situation where you are your best ult target, and that's never feels great. Kassadin. Kassadin. Kassadin and Kale and Smolder are all going to have this situation where Zilean really likes going into the late game. He's got a pretty good mid to late game, just because he scales so incredible with his spell levels. He scales so well with uh like ability haste. And so you'd think to pair him with one or two late game power scalers, but then you end up with a team that's terrible in the early game and like great in the late game that they're never going to get to. So I'm going to say if you have a Caston, it really depends on how your comp goes, but for the most part, he's pretty fine. He'll use your movement speed bonus. You're practically never going to ult a Caston because he's never going to be in range of you. But also, like, yeah, it's good. Because Zilean's decent at forcing the late game. Caston really likes that. Katarina. Katarina is going to, I want to say, solid picks. She, similar to Jinx, she like theoretically likes Zilean, and then has like one glaring nombo with him. Which is she's an assassin that teleports around a lot. And that can sometimes make it really hard to ult her, because sometimes she just daggers out of your range. Or you'll go to ult her, and instead of going for a portrait, you're going over the person, and then she disappears and dies, stage right, stage left. It's alright, but she's a reset champion. And I believe she needs a takedown. Last time I checked for her abilities, she might need kills. And if she needs kills, that makes her a lot worse. But reset champions who need kills to do their abilities, really like Zilean, or specifically like takedowns, because they can jump in, do their damage, get blown up, and by the time they've stood up, usually someone in a team fight has died. Diego, who's, when we get to him, is going to love that. He's absolutely going to be up here. Just because if you can use that reset, a lot of champions who are built around it are given a ton of power for their ability to get a kill. Yeah, I think Katarina's pretty solid. She's going to probably be the top of the assassins. Kale. Kale's going to go sit right next to Cassidon. Actually, I think Kale's going to go sit next to duos only. I don't really like seeing Kales because you can both end up saving someone. And she also tends to become your highest priority save target. And that can make it really hard where if the Kale thinks you're going to ult her, and then she'll ult someone else, or, you have to track her ultimate and your ultimate at the same time, especially when it gets those late games where she needs to be the person alive to output the damage, it can be really easy for both of you to choose the wrong targets and ult at the wrong time. And worst case scenario, neither of you ult each other, the Kale. And like best case scenario, if things are going wrong, you both ult the Kale. And it's generally not great. Kane. I want to say duos only as well. He has a tendency to dive in, blow stuff up, and then go hide in someone. And if you ult the Kane when he goes and jumps in and then he hides in someone else, terrible. He also doesn't really tend to use your move speed super well, but he loves it for repositioning if he's moving through walls as Assassin Kane. So I definitely say there is synergy between Zilean and Kane, but a lot of opportunity to just fumble that. Kennen. I want to say solid picks. Biggest issue with Kennen is Zilean really wants someone tanky. Even in like a fighter up in top lane. He wants someone who will utilize the entire ultimate if they get ulted. And Kennen tends to jump in below his kit and then die. And then he'll have like 15-second cooldowns on all of his abilities before he can be useful again. And so he's not a great ult target, but he also doesn't hate the move speed and doesn't hate the stun that works with the rest of his kit. So I'd say he's pretty good. Actually, probably middle of the pack. Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix middle of the pack. He doesn't have any hard crowd control, but he likes the move speed bonus, and he likes to jump in. And if you can't get his kill, if you revive him, a lot of the time the Kha'Zix will have his jump back up by then. Kindred. Please don't pick Kindred. Kindred's ultimate prevents anyone inside it from healing. And so if you someone gets ulted by Zilean and Kindred throws her ult down because the fight has started, the person who got ulted by Zilean will stand up with 1 health because they're not allowed to be healed inside the Kindred ultimate. It might have been changed, but that's how it ultimate used to work. And I simply do not see a lot of Kindreds, and I don't pick Zileans when I see them. Kled. I think Kled's pretty good. Kled actually might be... If Kled had better crowd control, he would absolutely be up here. But he's a solid pick. And because if you revive a Kled, I believe he comes back with Scarl. If he has enough health. He's super aggressive. He tends to win lane. You really like top laners that win lane and then drop off later, because a lot of the way they balance top laners who would lane and drop off later is they just make him slow. And if he falls behind, giving him easy picks with your E slowing down enemies and ulting him when he gets blown up can help that Kled get back into the game. Zilean can be pretty decent at actually getting a lot of melee top laners who lost their lane, especially if they're fighters, back into the game if you really want to work on that champion. Kog'Maw. Gut reaction is to put Kog'Maw in Please Don't Pick This, because Kog'Maw needs someone who can babysit him, and Zilean cannot babysit him. Zilean needs to be babysat by his ADC. Probably meh, and you just give up the first 4 levels worth of waves, which is not great, but he's also one of the few ADCs who, because he's a caster, will actually utilize your movement speed bonus to get out of the way a lot of the time in your like middling elos. So he likes his survivability, but it kind of weakens your team comp a lot if you're gonna be doing that. Cassante. Meh. He dash a lot, and Zilean don't like people who dash because dashes aren't affected by move speed. He's tanky, but he's a tank that tends to shoot himself over a wall and be unultable. And when he does that, he also becomes not a tank anymore. But Cassante is such a pillar. Like, when has Cassante ever been a bad pick? Like, on balance, Cassante, you can first pick, no fear, and that's fine. Yeah, middle of the pack. LeBlanc. She's got her little tether, which scales off move speed because she has to maintain the tether. She's also pretty tricky. She really does benefit. She's able to utilize a maximum E, like Zilean E, pretty well. I'd say pretty solid. And a lot of these are also based off of like the lanes they're from. Obviously, if there was a lot more juggernauts or fighters in mid lane, I think a lot of these mages wouldn't be as high as they are. But she's an assassin mage that likes the move speed. She's kind of not a great ult target because of, one of LeBlanc's biggest strengths is it's really hard to tell when LeBlanc is in danger or when she's pretending to be in danger. But if you get an ult off, like if she gets jumped, she also likes it because she usually has her abilities up by the time she's revived. I'd say it's pretty fine. Lee Sin. It's alright. Lee Sin's alright. Like, he likes the move speed. But kind of similar to Hecarim, Lee Sin likes to flank a lot, and so you don't typically follow Lee Sin very often. Leona. We like Leonas. We like Leonas. Tanky, hard crowd control, lots of hard crowd control. Really likes being able to move fast. It's good. It's a if you see a Leona as a Zilean, you're pretty happy. Lilia. I know Lilia likes Zilean because she likes to move around a lot and do her weird kiting thing where she tags everyone, gets her dots. But her hard crowd control's weird, and she tends to heal a lot. I'm gonna say probably middle of the pack. As a Lilia, you're probably way higher on here, but as the Zilean, I tend to like throw an E on Lilia occasionally, and then she'll run off my screen, and I won't think of her. And every once in a while, she'll come back, and I'll E her again. Lysandra, definitely meh or middle of the pack. I'm leaning more towards meh because she tends to ult herself on every once in a while and waste your ultimate if you need to ult her. And she's already kind of balanced around the fact that her E gives pretty good move speed. Lucian. Please don't pick Lucian. Reason you don't want to pick Lucian is Lucian's balanced around winning the lane hard early and using that lead to push. Very similar to Draven, but unlike Draven's, Lucian does not win lane on his own nearly as hard. He's kind of one of those ADCs that is balanced, like similar to Kog'Maw, where they're balanced around having specific types of supports. You know, Lulu Kog'Maw is iconic. Nami Lucian is super good. Speaking of Lulu, I don't want to see Lulu. Please don't pick Lulu if you have a Zilean mid. Her ultimate. Lulu, a lot of her kit overlaps in the responsibilities of Zilean. She's got single target crowd control instead of area of effects, and she has a move speed bonus, and she has an ultimate that makes it harder for an ally to die. They both kind of overlap in responsibilities. You might get away with like your Zilean midding and your support duo is Lulu or maybe top Lulu or whatever, right? In which case that's fine, but then you're missing certain roles. Generally, you're just gonna be stepping on each other's toes and non-bowing a lot. Looks alright. She doesn't really, she's all skill shots. She doesn't really care. Malphite. Malphite's alright. He doesn't really care. He gets a lot of his move speed off of his enemies. He likes the E occasionally because he gets his ultimate. He doesn't tend to die. People don't tend to blow him up, so he doesn't really use your ultimate very often. Meh, meh, meh. Malzahar. Malzahar's right. He likes it if you can help him get up to an enemy. But typically, Malzahar's issue in the mid to late game isn't getting to the enemy. It's the fact that his target is standing in a group of 4 to 5 people who will kill a Malzahar if he walks up. And so Malzahar is really more looking for someone who can take that position apart or cause chaos in the ranks, and so you can just walk up to someone and ult them. Maokai is a support who supports. Master Yi. Master Yi is super fast, and his movement is from a move speed buff instead of a move speed stat gain. He tends to save himself with his Q a lot. Yeah, he is a late game champion that likes the late game. But honestly, definitely better supports to pick for Master Yi. Milio is a support who supports. I'm so meh on Misfortune. I want to say middle of the pack just because that's where most ADCs are. But I'd prefer an Ashe over a MF. Would I prefer Corki over an MF? Probably. MF needs to be babysat. And she's kind of an ability caster ADC. Who stands around a lot. Yeah. Mordekaiser. So I've played with plenty of people who play Mordekaiser, and they say they really like Zilean's E. I don't really tend to see it because what happens in the Shadow Realm stays in the Shadow Realm. But you know, the big reason I don't tend to like Mordekaiser's Zilean, even though I like you work really well with them, I'm tempted to put him here, is if Mordecai in solo queue people are allergic to picking tanks, and if Mordekaiser's your frontline and you E him so he can run up and grab the enemy ADC or enemy mid into his death realm, you don't tend to have a second tank unless you choose to not play Zilean and play a tank support to engage. And so he'll win his fight, jump, spawn outside of the death realm into a group of 4 enemy champions who will proceed to obliterate him. And then you're playing a 4v4. And that's not great. But actually, I'm going to put in duos only because I've done it with Mordekaisers before. You knowing what condition your Mordekaiser is in is so good. Like being able to go, hey, are you winning that fight? So you can just put your mouse cursor over his portrait and slam R. And so when he pops out, if he's low, he'll just go ulted immediately. That's really nice. That is some good synergy, but it does require you to communicate between each other. Also, I've solo queue Mordekaisers, you'll throw a move speed bonus on them, and I don't think they register it. Morgana. You see Morgana in a lot of roles. She's not a support who only supports. She's kind of a Lux. So wherever I put Lux, yeah. She, like Lux, she has a shield. Her crowd control is a skill shot. Roots. She's alright. She's pretty indifferent to Zilean, and Zillian's pretty indifferent to her. Nefiri, meh. A lot of assassins are gonna end up here. Yeah, a lot of assassins that aren't these two are gonna end up here. Nefiri tends to save herself a lot, and assassins are usually given a lot of move speed, or they tend to build a lot of move speed in the form of like Yomus or other short-term, move speed bonuses. And so they tend to itemize to solve problems Zilean already solves, but they still want those items. So you're kind of doubling down on a solution for a problem instead of a strength. Nami is a support who supports. Oh my god. I think Nasus goes up in absolute synergy. Uh if you've noticed, if it's a top laner who likes Ghost, it'll like Zilean. Nasus, his fucking wither's insane. It's practically a stun. Like that's what 7 seconds or 5 seconds of the like most fucked up slow in the game. Yeah. You make that dog when he hits his mid game power spike insane. Traveling around with a Nasus in your ADC is really bad. My biggest issue solo queue is Nasus have a tendency to like focus on split pushing for some reason instead of just grouping up with the team and knowing that you're not going to lose those fights. Nautilus is a support who supports and doesn't tend to play outside of that, but if he wasn't, similar to Braum, I think he'd go into middle of the pack, so I'm just going to let him support the sports. Nico. Meh. Meh. A lot of her stuff is does not disguise shenanigans. I can't think of anything about Nico that I wouldn't say about Lux or Morgana, except she doesn't even give shields. Nidalee. Nidalee's pretty meh. She doesn't really utilize your kit. Like, everyone likes move speed. Nyla, into the dumpster. Actually. So, as a Zilean, when I see a Nyla, I have two thoughts. First thought is, hell yeah, I'm gonna hit level 6 faster and get my Q to max rank faster. My second thought is, this Nyla is about to have the worst game she's had all day. Because Nylas are effectively a Jax with 200 extra attack range. And really, really need to win the early game to get their lane dominance and not just get rolled over by all the other ADCs that just have more attack range than them. And so, no, your Nyla is gonna have a terrible time. But if she can win the more mental fortitude game, in the mid to late game, you can kind of bring her back, similar to how you bring a lot of fighters who lose their lane back. Yeah, but I'm gonna say for not having your team tilt in the first 10 minutes of the game, you probably don't want Nylas on your team because you will fuck them over so hard by being a champion that doesn't contribute to the game for the first 6 minutes of the game. Nocturne. He is alright. He likes the movement speed bonus. His crowd control is semi reliable. And that's about it. But you also tend to make him better at the things he's already good at instead of covering for his weaknesses. Nunu is pretty solid. You can buff Nunu when he's rolling a snowball, and that gets to some insane movement. He tends to be pretty good at chasing down enemies with his your movement speed bonus. And he's fairly tanky. He's kind of hard to ult because his chomp gets him that big heal. But he also likes big team bites. Pretty good. Olaf. God, I don't tend to think of Olaf. I'm gonna probably put him middle of the pack. He doesn't have any hard crowd control, but he also could be an angry man who can't get crowd controlled. He's fair. He's a beat stick that beats, and you don't really interact with that. Like, he'll take the move speed bonus. He likes it, but I don't think of Olaf, and Olaf does not think of me. Orianna, pretty meh. Some mage. Doesn't really tend to use her movement speed. She has the issue where if she walks up to a team, a lot of the time that team will just kill her. And so you need her to be able to throw her stun, and her ball has that travel speed. It needs to first hit where it's going and then be able to ult. And so if she walks up, throws her Q, and just gets blown up, she won't be able to ult. And if you ult her, the enemy team will just walk away from the ball again and repeat. Ornn doesn't do a lot of damage, despite what a lot of top laners will tell you. His W does percentage max health damage, and a lot of top laners that think Ornn does a lot of damage think that because they'll take short trades with him, get W'd, and they'll let him take another trade with him once his W is back up, which you just don't want to do that. He doesn't really pose a lot of damage. He's got really long cooldowns, insanely punishingly long cooldowns. And Zilean doesn't use stats very well. He uses one stat incredibly well, and that stat is ability haste. And his AP scaling is bad. He has 290% scaling. I think it might be 270. God, it's been so long since I've looked at the percentages. But 200% of that is on his ultimate. And that's not good. Getting 2 health per 1 AP, or 200 health per 1 AP. No, that's not right? God, never do math on video. It's just not a good ratio. So getting his masterworks is not great. It does pay to like give him levels, which is why I don't think it's a terrible game. It's just you want a more impactful top laner. Hey, more impactful top laner. Pantheon's pretty good. He's got an incredibly reliable stun, and he is a man that walks at you. He's a man that walks at you so hard that they said his ultimate will be a man that flies at you, so he can walk at you better. He really likes it. He actually might. The reason I won't be putting him up in absolute synergy is he doesn't team fight very well. And unlike Darius, it's not who has like team fight abilities and is limited by his mobility. Pantheon is a skirmisher and a duelist and does not team fight. In team fights, he acts more like a tank with his shield and being able to block directional damage. Puppy. Pretty solid. She likes the movement speed boost. She's got that pretty good stun. Her ultimate being able to turn any team fight into a skirmish is really good, and getting her to be a position in a way that can work is pretty solid. Pyke is a support who supports. Kiana is an assassin who is really dash oriented. Her crowd control is her ultimate. I don't know if she actually has crowd control in her basic abilities. I can't think of any. And so if there is any, it's probably not substantial. I'm going to put her in pretty meh. Quinn. Let me explain to you all the reasons why Quinn's a bad thing. Quinn's not a tank. She takes up a top lane slot. Her crowd control is she kick flips off someone, which is sick as hell, but not very good crowd control. She is a damage machine, and that's it. And she tends to sprint outside of Zilean's ult range immediately. Those are all bad reasons why, like, you don't want to see a Quinn. But Quinn gets so much move speed. So much move speed. If you E a Quinn coming out of base, she will be in the enemy fountain before your E is up. Like, before your E is expired. If you see an enemy champion on the map and you E that Quinn, I'm going to put her in duos only. That Quinn will be there. There is no escape. If you are good on your vision game, you get your jungler and your allies to buy their red boards and know where people are or whatever. And you get that Quinn fed. Oh my lord. There is no escaping a Quinn. Enemy ADC is trying to farm under their tier 2. Dead. It is fucking hilarious. But also, there's a lot of reasons why it shouldn't work. Rakan is a support who supports Rammus, my boy Rammus. So, Rammus and Hecarim look very similar. As in, they are fast champions who engage well and are tank junglers. Right? Tanky junglers. But because Rammus doesn't need to push people for his crowd control, he does tend to just actually ride up mid lane into a team fight and pass by you. And that makes your gameplay with how you would play with a duo Hecarim identical with Rammus, but you don't have to finagle the Rammus to play differently. He'll just play how he does, and that happens to put him near you. He also never dies, so you can save your ultimate for your allies. And because he forces his enemies to stand still, you can make your bombs pretty easy and just make them stand still for longer. It's pretty solid. I'm always happy to see a Rammus. Rek'Sai has a lot of built-in mobility, so that's kind of going to drop her a lot. She's also an assassin. She also moves around a lot, tends to get out of your ranges. Yeah, meh. I I don't really tend to think of Rammus. Rel is a support who supports. Rena is a support who supports who also does your job. But if she W's an ally and you ult them at the same time, that ally is coming back to life. And sometimes they'll get the kill, get the Renata heal, die anyways, and then come back to life anyways. So, she's alright. Like, you see a Renata, it's fine. A lot of these are in here just because I couldn't be bothered to think of it. Like, Rel's probably here, because she's a tank. Nullis gets to stay here because he's a tank, but his mobility is based off the hook, which is effectively a dash. Renekton. Necton's a solid pick. He's got that sustain, he's got those short cooldowns. He likes to engage. He's also a champion who is strong in the lane phase and then tends to drop off. And those champions tend to be really good if they have a support enabling them to still be relevant in team fights. I'd say Renekton's pretty good. Also, because Zilean practically is guaranteed to lose or go even in his lane, he really likes top laners that either win their lane outright or don't care how their lane goes. Aatrox is up there for, like, because he is so solid. I don't see a lot of Aatrox's feed. Rengar, middle of the pack, he's fine. He likes the move speed bonus when he's in his ultimate, but other than that, he doesn't really tend to interact with you. You can help him get to bushes faster, and you can ult him when he inevitably jumps into a 5-man and gets blown up as he kills the enemy ADC, and then he'll stand back up and do it again. Riven, please don't pick Riven. Her mobility is all dashes, her attacks are all dashes, and none of them are affected by move speed. And so you'll double her move speed, and the Riven will literally not notice. Because they have to stop using their abilities. And Rivens are not capable of doing that. Rumble is okay. He is a mage. That is the end of that sentence. Rumble is a mage. Rise. Rise is a mage with a point-and-click stun. Or a point-and-click root. That is... It's alright. Rumble, you get to go meh. Samira. Huh. Samira really likes supports that help her win that early game. Actually, I guess she really likes winning that, like, level 6 power spike, which Zilean can do. He's kind of weird. She's one of the few ADCs that if she gets downed, will typically be fine standing back up because she's got those dashes built in, and her ultimate based off of, like, obviously it's based off of her getting her combo. So being in the middle of a team fight that, middle of a team that's standing on her while she's ulting can give her the opportunity to just stand up, flash out, do some tricks, start ulting, kill a team. That's ideal. But you just don't do her a lot of favors by being a Zilean in early game. But I think she's the only ADC here that doesn't outright win the lane or not care about how the lane goes. Sejuani. Sorry. You're not melee. Sejuani really likes melee champions. But you also make her fast. And she can't be slowed. Good. It's good. It's alright. Big team fight champion. Nothing wrong with that. Senna is a support who supports. And you're like, oh, no, wait. Senna is an ADC who also supports. So, either way, she's supporting. And either way, she's not doing damage. Actually, please don't pick Senna, because she doesn't do damage. Please pick an ADC that does damage. Hey, Seraphine. Seraphine, Seraphine's a solid pick. Zilean's not a champion that gives any attack speed bonuses, and he doesn't build anything that like works with that, right? He doesn't build a lot of things that give attack speed bonuses. And Seraphine typically bullies enemy ADCs, is usually fine on her own, and being an enchanter uh, also covers the fact that you don't have an enchanter, a real enchanter. You just need to get your ADC in a different role, which hopefully is your mid lane. If you can get a mid lane Barris or something like that, Seraphine bot, totally fine. Set. So that's pretty solid. He initially I was pretty cold on him because he's a juggernaut with hit or miss crowd control who is good at walking at people fast, but he still likes walking at people faster. So, like, he'll take your move speed and he'll take your double bombs, and you pretty much know when a set's gonna die and when he's not, because like you get to see him use his W, and if his W's down, you can ult him, and if his W's not been used, don't ult him. That's just how that goes. So I'd say he's pretty solid. I'm never mad to see a set. Shaco. Ooh. Shaco is an assassin who goes up in the solid picks. Specifically 80 Shaco. Which actually makes me want to put him in duos only. Because a lot of solo queue Shacos tend to pick the AP build, because it's pretty good. But because Shaco has actual invisibility, he gets a lot of use off of being really fast in that invisibility, because he can clear a lot of distance and be fully just not seen through any kind of vision. And that can make getting early to mid game picks really good if you max your E with a Zilean Shaco duo. Shen. Please don't pick Shen. Because Shens are going to ult whoever you're going to ult. Guaranteed, no matter how it goes. And you're going to waste your ult. And Shen's going to be there. He non-bows you pretty hard. Maybe duo, because he also likes the move speed, but I don't think it's worth the effort. Shyvana. I do not think of Shyvana. She doesn't have any hard crowd control. She is pretty middle of the pack. She likes the E for repositioning, and that's typically about it. Singed. Very funny. Where the fuck do I put a Singed? Middle of the pack, I guess? Solid pick? Like, he loves your move speed bonus, but he also needs to actually come by you to use it. And Sins are usually just off doing their own thing, man. I guess I'm just gonna drop in duos only, because your duo Singed has to remember you exist and stop by for a fucking speed bonus. Sion, he's pretty hard. He's meh. He's a juggernaut, but a lot of his abilities, like his hard crowd control, requires he stand still, and his ultimate's not affected by move speed. Like if his ultimate charge also is affected by his move speed, I could totally see that working really well. Sivir. Sivir's pretty solid. She's a pretty solid pick. She does have the issue that she tends to shove wave. But her Q can tend to get waves unfrozen if they freeze the wave. She's pretty self-reliant. You get to that mid-game, she just throws her shield on her, and she's fine. Yeah, I would say I can trust a Sivir to survive. Skarner. I do not ever think of Skarner, but he does have that nice ultimate, middle of the pack. Like, it's a Skarner. When was the last time you thought of Skarner? Sona is a support who supports. Incredible. Soraka, please don't pick Soraka. Similar to Shen, she is going to just ult whoever you're ulting. When like you're gonna ult someone and you're gonna waste your ultimates and you're gonna be sad. Swain. I don't really like Swain. He's kind of hard to tell uh, if he's going to die or not in his ultimate. And I believe if you ult him, he doesn't come back in ult form. So ulting's kind of voiced. And his hard crowd controls a skill shot that he has to hit that is a root, so it doesn't even really hard crowd control. So I'd say pretty meh. Pretty meh, yeah. Silas. Silas has a lot of the same things with Swain, but he doesn't need to be in ultimate form to do it, which makes him automatically way better. Also, he has a lot more interrupts as his hard crowd control, so I'd say he's pretty solid. But Silas also very reliant on what is on your enemy team. Syndra's actually pretty good, because despite the fact that her stun is a skill shot, it's a very hard to miss skill shot. Like giving her move speed bonus to just sprint up to someone, QE them, and then blow them up and leave is pretty nice. Very similar to Annie, but Annie's literally point and click and can do it in area of effect. And Syndra still needs to actually aim her abilities. Tom Kench. Meh, meh, meh. He's tanky. He's one of those lane bullies that falls off later, but he doesn't do, like, very similar to Pantheon, wherever he is, somewhere in this jumbled mess. Right here. Very similar to Pantheon, he's mostly single target, but he's not nearly as tanky as Pantheon. And his ultimate does have the option to accidentally consume an ally that you were ulting yourself, wasting both of your ultimates. Talia's pretty meh. She doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't really utilize your kit. Not really a lot of synergies. Talon's pretty meh. Assassins, they don't really use your move speed. They don't tend to die in areas that you could save them. They tend to come in, blow their load, and either get out or die. But either way, they're not going to be around you to save. Taric is a support who supports, and it feels so redundant to have a Zilean Taric on the team, but I guess you could, like, movement speed bonus him, and he'll, like, sparkle stun someone a little bit easier if you don't fuck up his muscle memory. Teemo and Zilean have no thoughts together. I don't think Teemo even, like, Teemo doesn't use your kit, but he's alright. Like, he doesn't nombo you. Thresh is a support who supports. I don't really like Tristana for Zilean combos. I get a lot of Tristanas when I pick Zilean because they're like, oh yeah, we're going to be double bombs. But Tristana really likes getting her early lane advantage. Her abilities naturally push the lane, so you have to play aggressive lanes because you don't really have the tower protecting you. Your bombs don't get stronger with each other, which I feel like every Tristana, like, assumes they do for some reason. And she has a natural escape that makes it really annoying to ult her, because you'll ult her and then she'll jump out and you're like, oh, I kind of expected you to keep fighting there and die. She's bad. Trundle is a slow fighter who has hard crowd, who's got weird crowd control, but it is crowd control. He's got good sustain, and you kind of tend to know when he's going to sustain a lot. And he really likes that move speed bonus. Trundles are pretty solid picks. Biggest issue being, you have to get a Trundle that isn't just going to always split push all the time, or you have to kind of shadow him. Tryndamere is pretty good. I would put him in duos only, because you as a Zilean player need to learn how to count to 5. With Tryndamere, always assume they're going to ult themselves, and then count to 5, ult him, and by the time he's up, he'll probably crack someone with an auto attack and then E out of danger. Pretty good. He likes the move speed. His shout that slows, it's alright. You really want him to be in a position where he wins lane. If it's a losing lane Tryndamere, oh god, you cannot do anything for him other than like maybe move speed him into a couple free picks to try to get back in the game. Twisted Fate is pretty middle of the pack. Obviously, got the gold card, got the point and click stun. That's pretty alright. But he's kind of made of wet tissue paper, and if you ult him, you're ulting wet tissue paper. So, and he has no natural escapes outside of that. So he's not really a great ult target, and there's a lot of better crowd control effects in the game than a gold card. Twitch is pretty good. The fact that you can E him in camouflage means he can reposition like crazy, and get those insane ultimate Twitch is, and he's got pretty good wave clear if he needs to solo lane. I'd say Twitch doesn't really tend to lose a lot of early games. Udyr used to be absolute synergy back before he got reworked, and now he's just a solid pick. Just because he used to be a run and stun bot, but now he's got his own built-in move speed, and he's got his magic immunity and all that nonsense, and so he's balanced to be more reliant on his kit and less on other things solving his problems. A lot of his own issues have been solved by his new kit. But he's tanky. He's got his, good damage. It's all right. He's also typically a pretty good ult target as the jungler. Oh my god, I've still got some left to go. Urgot, middle of the pack. He doesn't like his hard crowd control is his dash, which is not scaled with move speed. And so you don't really tend to have a desired ult like to work with Urgot. But he also does make a lot of space. And I believe his area of danger is roughly the same size as your bombs. So if you have bombs on Urgot, you just kind of amplify his area of danger. Furious is a kind of self-sufficient ADC. Very similar to Caitlyn, very similar to Ezreal, where he kind of just chooses a like he's pretty good at 1v2 in a lane if he needs to once he's got a few levels in him. Vayne is absolute synergy, I want to say, which is weird because Vayne does not win lane. Vayne goes to late game. Vayne's got super short range. But Vaynes are kind of already used to losing their lane. And so if you do a Zilean Vayne lane, you're just saying, hey, we're going to give Prio for a while. And then she's going to hit her ultimate at level 6. And that's not going to be enough because you've already given like half a level's worth of Prio, if not more. And then she's going to hit her like second or third item power spike. And you're going to max out your E. And oh my god, what a Vayne who moves with 900 move speed does when she's also partially invisible is gross. She's also an ADC that when she goes in because of her short range. And so she really benefits a lot off of getting ulted. I'd say almost the hardest thing to do is keep track of her in a fight so you can ult her. You gotta be remembering to like ult her portrait, E her portrait, that kind of thing. Veigar is certainly a mage. End of the discussion. Vel'Koz is certainly a mage. Vex. Yeah. Very indifferent on mages that, like, Veigar, his little, like, circle is pretty okay. But these two, their crowd control is a skill shot, and you don't really tend to help them with that much. I'd say that's a pretty solid pick. She jumps in, she's a diver. The difference between a diver and an assassin is assassins expect to get out, divers don't. And so giving her that ability to get up faster to her ult target, ult in, and then uh, get rezzed means she can stand up and get another proc of her passive. And just that's a lot of tankiness, that's a lot of damage from her E's. She if she like gets blown up and then stands up to do a couple more pieces of damage before getting blown up again, that is peak Vi. Vi's really like Zilean. You really like Vi's. Viego. Absolute synergy. Viego is balanced around being pretty bad if no one in team fight dies before he does, and pretty good if someone dies, and kind of like snowballs those fights. And so typically, he is also a guy who just walks at you. So typically, he is a Viego in. He'll run in. He'll do his jump stun. He'll get blown up. You'll ult him, and in the time it takes Viego to stand up, someone will have died, and he'll just start the chain where he'll stand up, do some fighting, grab the body of the person who died, do some more fighting. People will drop, just the whole Viego domino fall. And like reset champions love just being able to be rezzed while they have credit given so they can stand up at their most empowered form. Viego's pretty solid. I'd say pretty up there with Darius. If I see a Darius Viego game, that is a hard Zilean game. Doesn't matter what else is in play. Victor, pretty middle of the pack. Similar to all the other mages in this valley. Victor, like, he likes to be able to get there, throw skill shots, and leave, but he doesn't really care too much either way. He's gonna do that regardless, right? Vladimir. I don't really care about Vladimir. Figure out when he's going to sustain himself is pretty hard. He tends to waste your ultimate by blood pooling on occasion when he totally could have just taken the ultimate heal. He's alright. Like, he likes the late game, you like the late game, but I think with him pretty meh. He doesn't actively ruin your game, but I don't tend to like seeing Vladimir. Volibear. Volibear is pretty solid. Although he doesn't really have the... Yeah, he has the stun. He has a point-and-click stun. He's got tower dive disable. He really likes the move speed bonus. He really likes your ultimate. He's pretty solid. Volibear's a pretty decent jungler. If you see Zilean on your team and you're jungling, Volibear's a good pick. Never wrong. Same with Viego. Warwick. I'm going to put Warwick... in duos only. But that's not quite right. Warwick and Briar. Actually, that's weird. Where is Briar? Did Briar just... Ah, there's Briar. Briar, where are you down here? Warwick and Briar are both going to have the issue where a lot of their skill expression is understanding the fights they can take. And so as a Zilean, a lot of your skill expression is also knowing what fights your allies can take. And it's so hard with champions who like ride that edge. But if you know it and you got it and you know how, like, what kind of fights your Warwick can take, that Warwick will never die. You will ult him at the exact right time every time. He will stand up, have all of his abilities back up again. He'll be unkillable, rampages everywhere. Just total domination. Sun Wukong, middle of the pack. Yeah, I have no comments on Sun Wukong. Xayah. I would put Xayah up in solid picks, but she's actually kind of needy. I think she sits in the meh or middle of the pack. Yeah, middle of the pack. She's, once she hits 6, she can kind of protect herself, but she really likes a support that can work off of her. And Zilean just doesn't really work off, like, doesn't really complement Xayah. Just because she really wants someone who does more of a hard engage. She likes tanks, she likes recon, she likes engagers. Xerath is pretty meh. He does not utilize Zilean's abilities pretty much at all. And he has to stand still to do a lot of them. Xin Zhao. Xin Zhao is very similar to Warwick, where he is a sustained tank, and it's really similar to Warwick, similar to Gwen, where it's really hard to tell when he's going to die, when he's in danger, and there's a sustained tank. Unlike Gwen, I think Jhin is typically worth putting the effort into, just because he could just be this big bubble of influence that threatens a ton of damage, and some decent crowd control to mix. Yasuo, oh my god, middle of the pack. Like, he likes your E so he can get his movement speed, like his passive up faster. But other than that, you don't tend to really work with Yasuo's. Sometimes he'll ult into bad situations and you'll have to ult him out. And then he'll stand up and get some of his abilities back up and running. But other than that, you don't really tend to think of Yasuo. Yone. Yone, please don't pick Yone. Yone saves himself a lot too. Like, saves himself too many times. He's a highly mobile assassin that makes it hard to actually ult him when he needs to be ulted. And he can always pull himself back out of danger, which means it's hard to justify ulting him. He has a lot of dashes, but that makes him not utilize your E, and makes him really hard to be a bomb target. Yorick's pretty solid. Tends to win his lane. He actually really likes love almost everything Zilean brings. No, he likes everything Zilean brings to the kit. If you can get a Yorick that is willing to come and join a team fight, he will be handsomely rewarded by by your Zilean. Yuumi is a support that supports. Yeah, Yuumi is a support that supports. That's the end of that sentence. Zac, build the pack. Kind of nombos with your ultimate, but he's such like a good crowd control tank. If you can get a Zilean and a Zac and 3 damage dealers, that's a good comp. That's a really good comp. Even though Zac doesn't utilize your kit very well, he does strengthen what you're good at in forms of crowd control and brings tankiness that you don't have. And you can just choose to ult Zac anyways. If you do, he'll still have his passive up. That can be really nice. That makes a tank that's really hard to kill. Or you can just ult someone else and just know your tank is also going to stand up in a few seconds. All really good. Zed, where did I put Talon? Meh? Right? Zed and Talon are the same. Or have I not stored Talon? Yeah, pretty meh. Zed dashes around a lot, doesn't use your movement, yada yada yada. Assassins don't really work well as Zilean. Zilean doesn't like seeing a lot of assassins. Zeri. Pretty meh. Actually, I want to put her in duos only. Specifically, if you've had a Zeri that used to play old Zeri a lot, her getting Eing her during her ultimate can kind of feel like her old ultimate. But that's more of like a if you're a GM kind of thing. I think probably middle of the pack. She's got her ability to jump over walls, makes her fairly safe ADC. She can poke through walls with her W, which is all right. Ziggs, pretty solid. Ziggs has this issue where his escape tool is a satchel. And his satchel's pretty good, both as a displacement tool and as a tower killer. And so sometimes Ziggs will get into this situation where he'll blow up a tower and then get jumped on, and Zilean can just kind of bail him out of that. Also, you're both artillery mages, which makes for a fucking great laning experience where you both sit as far away as you can, tossing out skill shots your opponents have to do. I'm thinking mostly of bot lane Ziggs, but it's, mid lane Ziggs, similar thing. And being a mage, he also likes your really terrible passive. God, his Zilean's passive is just awful. Uh, uh, I you'd obviously never be able to play with a Zilean. I think I just put Zilean as a support to only support, even though that's wrong. Mid lane Zilean is occasionally a thing. I sometimes play top lane Zilean to bad results, but it's funny. But I think, yeah, you would never want to play with a Zilean as a Zilean. That would be a horrible experience for the same reason playing with a Soraka. Actually, yeah, you'd never want to play with a Zilean if you could. So he's alright. Goes into the mages. Zyra, meh, meh. Maybe of the mages, but she's kind of a mage that drops off pretty hard in the mid game. And because Zilean wants to force into a late game, he doesn't tend to like champions that fully just drop off where he's strong, because then you're still playing a 4v5. Briar, Xin Zhao, Briar, Warwick, they all get to sit here as a nice happy family of really hard to kill motherfuckers. Hui gets to join all the mages in the mage dome. Smolder. Smolder's pretty good. He likes being in the late game. He likes the move speed from Zilean. Yeah. He's got his nice escape tool with his flight. And he's fairly self-sufficient. I mean, obviously, like, top lane Smolder was a thing for a while. Still is, I think, occasionally. Just, I'm seeing more bot lane as they've nerfed the shit out of his top lane. But he's pretty good. And Bessa. Please don't pick Bessa. Too many dashes. Not enough crowd control. Aurora. Into the Mage Dome. The Mage Dome of mediocrity. That's a... I swear we already did Skarner. What? Did I misattribute Skarner? Oh my god. It's old Skarner, new Skarner. Well, I've already done this. Pull him off. Teemo. This is old. Get out of here. Get out of here. Mel. Mel goes in the Mage Dome. Yunara. Pretty meh. Yunara's an ADC that really cares about their support. Because she is just an auto attack machine and not much else. And you don't make her auto attacks better, and so you don't really tend to make Yunara very good. You also don't fight for her early game. And then Zaheen. For a self-revive champion, I find Zaheen to be meh. You can generally tell when Zaheen's going to revive, but he doesn't have any hard crowd control. And so you don't care about his kit as Zilean. You look at Zaheen as Zilean and go, okay, and then stop thinking about it. Like, I think he's got a pull. Zaheen's just a nobody of a champion. And he's got a decent amount of dashes, so he doesn't really care about your E. And I think this is pretty much God, there's so many fucking league champions. This is pretty much what I was thinking of when I was thinking about the distribution of champions. There's a lot of champions that are fine. When I get into games as Zilean, I'll go, hey, I need a Zilean champion. And a lot of people go, I don't know what that means. And I'm typically like, I want you to be someone who is low mobility, has good crowd control, uh, and has low cooldowns. And there's a few exceptions, like, you know, Ivern being pretty good because you solve one of his issues. Um, Same thing with like Katarina. She likes her resets. In some champions that are just fairly solid. One of the bigger issues is Zilean doesn't really have a lot of like. There's one ADC he likes, and I would say she's kind of bottom of the absolute synergy tier because you're just as happy seeing a top lane Vayne as you are seeing a bot lane Vayne. Actually, you're probably happier because it means you don't have to lane with bot lane Vayne. Um, but yeah, the problem is Zilean isn't just really not designed to work with ADCs. He just lives in their house and eats their food until he gets to get level 9, have his maxed out E and his ultimate, and go team fight with all of his buddies in the top lane in jungle. But yeah, it's pretty good. Uh, Also, it's really hard getting into teams with these like high mobility, no like low impact champions that are kind of hard to tell. Oh yeah, Zilean wouldn't want to play with these, but man, you feel it when you're playing Zilean. Uh, I don't really plan on doing a lot more league content. This is just something I had on my mind that I needed to get off. I might do another one of these in the future for on the enemy team. Like if you're a Zilean and you get to pick not first, what champions you are happy and mad to see on the enemy team. And we get to see a lot more commentary on the supports because definitely be a lot more opinions on how the sports go. But for now, have a good weekend if you're on that, and I'll see you in the next post.